God is still looking for men. He's still looking for women. Not perfect people, not powerful people, not, from the world standpoint, the top cream of the crop people. He's just looking for anyone that's available, because anyone, even the weakest, and maybe especially the weakest, his power is most greatly manifested and magnified in that life. And so the only qualification is being born again and living by his Spirit. And so Peter, again, the forerunner of the disciples, invites these men in. And he doesn't just stand at the door and knock, have a conversation. You've ever had somebody you just don't want in your house? And you can kind of tell they're by the door. You could invite them in or not invite them in, and you just kind of close the door and walk outside and have a conversation outside. Am I the only one that's ever done that? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. But he invites these guys in. He doesn't just go halfway, but he invites them in and makes them, in the Greek it says, his guests, which means that he's extending the full hospitality of an honored person in his home. This is a watershed event that's going to shape the future ministry of Peter. It's going to shape and transform and change radically the ministry of the church and the history of the impact of the gospel. This door in chapter 10 is swinging wide open, never to be shut again. And it's a door that we still are in, a door that's open, that remains open, a door that we can walk through if we want to. And it's a door that, by God's grace, I'm going to pray, we're going to pray together and see what God might have, what God might do, what God might accomplish through a group of men and women who simply say, Lord, here we are. In our failures sometimes in our no Lord, sometimes in our confusion, sometimes in our state of being perplexed, sometimes in our state of just wanting to absorb everything God has for us, sometimes in our barriers, sometimes in our racial barriers, sometimes in our socioeconomic barriers, sometimes in barriers that we just erect around the church because, well, we just want to be one big happy family. But those walls must come down. God will never let a wall like that stand indefinitely. And how much better for us to examine our hearts, and even as a church, examine what we're doing as a church and where we're going, and say, God, bring the walls down and help us in these days that we live in, very likely the last days of the kingdom of God on earth, in this sense, in this world. In these last days, bring the walls down, that we might be a part of your great work.